Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good afternoon. You are listening to Radio IKIM in the program Man and Nature, produced by Hajah Mazlina Ismail. I am your host, Sheikh Muhammad Saifuddin bin Sheikh Muhammad Saleh from the Center for Science and Environment Studies, Institute of Islamic Understanding, Malaysia. Inshallah, today we will be touching on another important topic entitled Sustainability with Solar Energy. Ladies and gentlemen, the sun is an important creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a sign of the might of Allah, and at the same time, the sun provides energy to our planet that is very important for mankind's survival. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the effect that it is He who made the sun to be a shining glory and the moon to be a light of beauty, and measured out stages for her that you might know the number of years and the count of time. Nowise did God create this but in truth and righteousness. Thus does He explain His signs in detail for those who understand. Now, with that introduction, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to introduce our guest today, Professor Dr Nowshad Amin from the Institute of Sustainable Energy, University Tenaga Nasional. Assalamualaikum and a very warm welcome to you, Professor.
Walaikum assalam and very good afternoon to you.
Right. How are you today? I hope all is well.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, I'm so far so good. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
It's a pleasure to have you on air with us in Man and Nature. Now, we'll go straight to our discussion, Prof. As an introduction, perhaps you could tell our listeners what we mean when we say energy sustainability.
Thank you, Dr. Sheikh. That's a good study indeed. We all know that energy is inevitable for our existence on Earth. Let me start with the kind of definition first. The International Energy Agency, or IEA, defines energy security, in other words, sustainability, as the following: the uninterrupted availability of energy sources at an affordable price for all. Three major things about energy sustainability are mentioned here, like the availability or accessibility, affordability, environmental friendliness of the energy sources for all of the mankind. If I make it more simpler, we may define energy sustainability as the reliable energy supply at reasonable cost and acceptable environmental impacts that will allow the world to grow in a sustainable and equitable way. Again, I try to make it much more simpler, or the simplest way, by saying that we have to leave some options or some provisions for our future generations to survive with the energy sources that they may need. In fact, that is the energy sustainability to me and maybe to the academia. Back to you.
Thank you for the introduction. I think there's a phrase I'm quite interested in when you mention about energy security. I think that's an important phrase that is related to sustainability. Now, Malaysia is a very fortunate country. Basically, we have the sun all year round. So what is the prospect of solar energy in general, and in particular in a country like Malaysia?
Thank you, Sheikh. In fact, Malaysia, as you know, that it's an equatorial country. We should have the most sunlight around the world, around the year. However, due to some geographical differences, we receive on an average 4.5 kilowatt hour per meter square per day from the sun, which is quite a good number comparing to Japan, Germany, where they are getting the most benefit from using the solar energy, but getting almost half of our quantity. So just to elaborate it, we can either directly use solar energy as electricity by some provisions like solar panels, or even use solar heat for domestic water heater or drying purposes in industrial scale, by which we can save a lot of conventional energy sources. So to conclude your question, that there's a huge prospect of solar energy in Malaysia, if I compare with other countries of the world, even including developing countries or developed countries.
But I think the discrepancy is that we don't seem to be utilizing solar energy as much as the developed countries, as other developed countries. Maybe you have a comment on that based on your experience?
Yes. Because I think the thing is, Malaysia is blessed with some subsidy in using, for example, the gasoline or petrol. So, and also the prices of electricity is also subsidized, is hugely subsidized. So sometimes we do not feel in our level, in fact, in our level, we do not feel how serious it is, in fact, because everything is available here, is quite cheap if you compare to other developing countries. So I think that is the discrepancy I feel here. I was in Japan for nearly 14 years, so I saw there that how serious they are in energy efficiency, in energy conservation, in personal level as well as in the collective level.
Now, what would be the main motivation for us to go with solar energy?
Again, thank you for this nice question. Let me remind myself and all from a Quranic verse from Surah An-Nahl, or from chapter 16, verse 12. Let me start by praising Allah Almighty first. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I just make the quote-unquote the translation. The verse says, He has made subject to you the night and the day, the sun and the moon, and the stars are in subjection by His command. Verily in these are signs for men who are wise. I think this one verse can say a lot of things. I mean, it will take a lot of time to explain the whole thing. But to the context, okay, let me brief a little bit. The sun, we all know that sun is the main, like for example, energy source for these planets. I mean, around in the solar system, definitely. And it has, and also our main source of energy in both direct and indirect ways. We can convert sun's radiation energy, and that is safely banked millions of miles away, definitely. And also we can convert the energy in ways possible like electricity or heat, or even we can store heat by some means nowadays. Sun's energy is omnipresent. That means it is everywhere, wherever people live in this world. Moreover, it's free. I think we can take the sign from Al-Quran to use solar energy in ways possible. That is what my understanding is. Thank you once again.
Right. So in other words, the Quran actually has provided a great motivation for us to utilize one of the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the form of solar energy. I think this is important for us to understand, because whatever that Allah has created, everything has its purpose. And I think with regards to the sun, there are many purposes, and one of which is actually to help us in using solar energy as a source for sustainability. Now, one of the problems, Prof, that we are currently facing is actually global warming. So, in your opinion, how does Malaysia respond to global warming, as well as the issue of energy sustainability?
Thank you. The global warming, it was there since long ago, but we never noticed until lately. The world is really warming up in a tremendous way. So if we see the time-lapse video or time-lapse history, so we have become like 0.8 degrees centigrade warmer than pre-industrialization era. Like I mean, if you compare the 1950s, now we are 0.8 degree like overheated, or the temperature is 0.8 degree over the standard. So, which is you must seem that the 0.8 degree is nothing but as a global, like an average temperature rise. It is a huge disaster for us. Just to give you a brief introduction about, for example, if the global this temperature rises over 4 degrees centigrade, what would happen? In fact, most of the countries will be inundated by the water. Sea level will rise definitely, and not only the low-lying lands or low-lying countries will be affected, but also cities like London, New York, and all those big cities will be completely flooded. So global warming issues are being addressed in United Nations General Assembly and like the subsequent meetings, all those meetings. So in the most important meeting happened in 2015, it's called COP21, Conference of Parties, which was held in France that time, and that is called the Paris Agreement. In fact, almost 200 countries of the world was present there, and they all acknowledged that this way we should not let it happen. Like, we cannot just let the temperature rise like that way. So let's reduce the temperature rise to 2 degrees centigrade, if possible 1.5 degrees centigrade in coming years. So Malaysia is also a signatory, in fact, to this Paris Agreement that happened in COP21, and also the subsequent treaties that happened until Glasgow last year, in fact. So so it urges, in fact, every country to give their best effort to curb the carbon dioxide emission, to keep the temperature rise to 2 degrees centigrade. Okay. So we are also committed, in fact, to curb CO2 emission, which is mainly responsible for global warming. And Malaysia has some targets, for example, to curb, to reduce 45% by 2030 from 2005 level, and eventually become carbon neutral country by 2050. Just to mention an example, that some studies show around 145 countries can be carbon neutral by simply using renewable energy resources. And Malaysia is not an exception as well. Just to add here that Malaysia, through government agencies, has been active in promoting new rules and regulations that encourage low carbon society, smart energy transition, energy efficiency to achieve energy sustainability. So I see the response from Malaysia as spontaneous as well as sincere in global platform. Thank you.
So are you optimistic with the way things are going in the country at least?
At least the beginning, we have just started. Okay, we just started those activities, but time will say how sincere we are. At least there are regulations. At least there are ways that we know. Now it depends on us how we will become sincere or responsible. How we really act. Against these things. So that depends on us. Time will say, maybe next 5 years, 10 years, if you can really prove that we are really curbing the carbon dioxide emission to the targeted level, maybe I should say that we should be more optimistic. But it is not it's not a local issue. In fact, we are connected by air, by water. So we have to also encourage our neighboring countries and extend our hand by all means to collectively, in fact, fight against this global warming.
Inshallah. I think that's the hope. Governments can sign treaties, but it goes back to everyone. Everyone has a role to play in curbing carbon emission. But the challenge should probably be, I think, in the context of the general public, the issue of global warming may be something that is far away from them. Many may not be giving much attention because they have other immediate concerns, things like problems like COVID-19, food supply. So these become their priorities. So when we talk about global warming, sometimes some of them may not appreciate the real danger that we are facing, because to them it's something that is far away from them. I think that's one of the challenges that we have to address when it comes to global warming. Now, Prof, in your view, what is the future of energy sustainability in Malaysia?
A good question indeed. In fact, I have been working on solar energy since 1996, almost more than 25 years. So it changes. In fact, the view changes. From time to time. Once upon a time, countries around the world were engaged in this issue, and then suddenly the attention was diverted by other issues. But anyway, let me be strict to this issue that energy sustainability. If there is everything is like the other countries are in peace, and not many wars around us. So I should say that Malaysia, since the beginning of this movement on global warming and those related issues, have been very supportive in many ways. Malaysia has been attending those meetings or those conventions, all those things. So also implementing rules and regulations, promoting green energy efficiency, etc., will help to achieve energy sustainability. That we also know. We also know that the countries are quite ahead of us. In fact, they are successful. Some of the countries are successful. They have shown the pathway for us. Anyway, according to a recent declaration by our Honorable Prime Minister last year, that Malaysia aims to be carbon neutral by 2050. And which has a relation to our no more coal-fired power plants. So there is a straightforward. We are targeting the carbon neutral country by 2050, and it is it is correct. I mean, directly related to our less usage of conventional power sources like coal-based power plants. So it is a good thing that we have already declared, but we have to now check how we can really mitigate and how we can get the alternative for that one. However, I think we need to educate our next generation with ample information as well as its seriousness and encourage them to think and do research on this issue from early stages. We only learn those things in university, and even sometimes the subjects we are teaching is towards the end of their curriculum, like year 4 or something like that. So it is in fact, I think we should start teaching our next generation from early stage so that they will be more concerned about this energy sustainability issue, at least in Malaysia. Just to correlate our effort, in fact, that we recently secured some research grant from Ministry of Higher Education, which is as long-term research grant scheme, or in other words, it is called LRGS, where research teams from University of Malaya, University of Kebangsaan Malaysia, and University of Tenaga Nasional, like ours one, are together to work on especially solar energy technologies. And also where we also incorporated one extra part, which is to create a curriculum to teach about renewable energy resources as early as in primary to secondary schools, using some apps and some mobile labs, we call it. So, I mean, our effort is there, but the future depends on us, as I mentioned, that our true understanding about the consequences of global warming, about the fossil fuel extinction, and the execution of measures that are global and local. So, I mean, the future depends solely on us. So our sincerity, our effort, as well as our neighboring countries, because we are connected, as I mentioned. So we have to come as a local effort as well as global effort as well.
Yes, thank you for the reply. I think what you mentioned is very important. Awareness and understanding of the importance of the issue needs to be stressed upon all to all members of the society, especially the younger generation, because they are basically going to inherit the planet, the country. So they need to understand the issue as well. So education is one way towards that. Now, I was interested with something that you said earlier on. You've been involved with solar energy for 25 years, perhaps more. So what actually, what was the factor that drew you into this area of solar energy?
Okay. In fact, when I was in bachelor degree, so I was looking for, I mean, I was trying to get involved in some research in Japan. I was studying that time. So in masters, I first came across to this term, solar energy. And so I found one professor, and I was recommended by my earlier professor, where I did my bachelor final year project on material science related research in the electronics background. So when I got chance in the university, there are two universities for my master's. One is Tokyo University and Tokyo Institute of Technology. So so my previous supervisor, final year project supervisor, he mentioned that if you want to work on solar energy, so this professor is really good. I mean, the professor in Tokyo Institute of Technology. So then the term solar energy came to me. That time it was like, nobody knew that much. But in Japan, already it was taking shape that they have been producing solar panels. They have been utilizing small-scale solar panels in even watches or calculators, maybe not in bigger scale. That time it was a fancy item. But I mean, gradually you see, like last 25 years, since the beginning of my experience, beginning of my activity on solar cell fabrication, or we call it fabrication. I mean, we make it in fact by different methods. So when I was involved in the research since 1996, then I came across a world that I was not really aware of. In fact, I was attending many conferences, and I found that roughly 800 people are involved in those conferences and researchers. And I found that, I mean, they're all passionate about the dream. That time it was like, the intrusion or the percentage of energy share from solar energy was very, very meager or very small. But today, if you compare today, energy from electrical energy from solar cell or solar technology is almost it is 9% to 10% in the global energy scenario, and 25% is the total renewable energy the share. So it's a big issue, big deal for us. That just before 20 years ago, there was nothing, no share. Not even 0.0%, 0.1%. But now, the sincere effort by many researchers and many, of course, the world leaders also came together and believed in this technology. And I should say my belief in this technology also helped me to come to this extent and to do some activity in Malaysia. I have 2 labs. In fact, I was involved in Malaysia. One is University Kebangsaan Malaysia. There was a lab where we can produce a 2nd generation solar cell, and also in Uniten we have very nice lab, and we also have some sort of activity outside so that people can appreciate the solar energy applications. So it's a kind of God's sign, I should say. I believe that I came to this I came across this way because of God's mercy on me, and I still appreciate that. I still believe that the solar energy alone can take 50% of the energy scenario in future, and which is well matching with many of the think tanks' prediction in future.
Inshallah. Now, Prof, going back to what you mentioned, that Malaysia aims to be a carbon neutral country by 2050. Now, for us to achieve that target, what would be your suggestions for Malaysians in particular?
Yeah, it's a good question. In fact, as I mentioned before, there are countries well ahead of us in implementing renewable energy resources or to become a carbon neutral country. They're adhering to their policies. So likewise, in Malaysia, many think tanks as well as government agencies also study this issue in details, as it's a local issue for Malaysia, in fact. We can take lessons from developed countries, but we have to fine-tune it for Malaysia because the Malaysian socio-economic conditions are different than those countries. I can give a list of things that we can follow or implement as also being promoted by the Ministry of Energy or Energy Commission, Suruhanjaya Tenaga. So if you browse those the agency's website, you can also you can know a lot of things can be done in Malaysian context. But my suggestions are aligning to them to go gradually. In fact, to go low carbon society, implementing green mobility, for example, changing vehicles from petrol operated or gasoline operated to hybrid or even battery operated ones. China has shown us the example because some of the cities are 100% battery operated vehicle. And also implementing energy efficiency. We should promote energy efficient devices, appliances in our home and outside. And also adoption of renewable resources. Like now we are 25% electricity from renewable, but our target is to become 38% by 2030, which is also a good target. Hopefully we can achieve to that target by 2030, inshallah. However, I also feel that the most is to be more environmental concerned. Okay, we people are very as we are commoner. In fact, we really are full with our daily necessities or with the pandemic issues, but we have to be environmental concerned. And because I still feel that Malaysia is, and most of the Malaysians are very lavish in using the energy comparing to many developed countries. So because I think it's subsidized, and that's why we do not feel that much pressure from that side. So I think we have to be very much careful about environment issues, about using those kind of conventional energy sources, and we have to be quickly transform into renewable energy concerned society. That's it from my side.
Right. Inshallah, I think that's a challenge that each of us has to address and rise to the occasion. Now, you mentioned about cars. I remember seeing your own car. You actually used solar panels on your car to have. I think that's a way of leading by example. You're not just a researcher, but you're also somebody who implements what you research in your in your daily routine. I don't know whether you want to comment on that.
Thank you, Dr. Shekhar. Yes, 2 years ago, maybe you have seen my small car, Kelisa, which is a 900 cc car. So I convert into a semi-solar car. I cannot fully convert it because it's a gasoline related engine. So I just converted the air conditioning of the car to solar system. I'm still enjoying the cold air. Using the solar energy, but it was a nice venture. And very recently, I have signed for NEM3, which is a new policy, so that I can install solar panels on my rooftop, and I can pay the money in 3 years of time. That gives me some kind of benefit, in fact, so that and this policy is really helping a lot of people around us, so that gradually we can be more renewable concerned people, not only by learning it, but also by implementing in our daily life. So, of course, I'm involved in this field, and I should show people by implementing in my lifestyle as well. Thank you so much for bringing this topic.
Inshallah, inshallah. Now, Prof, we are coming to the end of our program. Perhaps you'd like to share with us some conclusion by wrapping up our discussion today.
Thank you. It was very small discussion. It was very small span of time. So I just say we're now well connected locally and globally due to the IR 4.0. So, so in this era, ignorance is a choice, as many people say. So if I say I'm ignorant about it, it's a choice. It's no more, everything is there. So we cannot blame our ignorance anymore, in fact. So let's be more serious about this global warming issue, about this renewable energy, about everything in personal level as well as in collective level. Rules and regulations help to some extent, but I feel that our accountability to our Creator, Allah Almighty, for all our deeds, including becoming a good citizen or good human being, may help the most. So that is what I feel. By being more concerned about facts, being it a per capita energy usage or anything else. So we have to be more concerned, and we have to implement in our personal life. And we should be more concerned and act accordingly, definitely. Information is there, but we need to take this information as knowledge, which is a part of divine knowledge too, to help the sustainability by becoming more efficient in our energy roadmap, being it an individual level or being a collective level for the country. So I think that way our accountability to our Allah Almighty may help us to achieve sustainability in terms of energy, in terms of anything else like food, water, etc., etc. So that's all to wrap by saying that to be more accountable to Allah Almighty may help us to achieve sustainability.
Inshallah, inshallah. I think that's a nice summation from you, Prof. Nowshad. Ladies and gentlemen, respected listeners of the program, I hope that our discussion today with Professor Nowshad Amin has enlightened us as to the importance of solar energy, especially in the context of sustainability in view of Malaysia's aim to be a carbon neutral country by 2050 especially. Now, before we conclude today's program, I would like to express my gratitude to Professor Dr. Nowshad Amin from University Tenaga Nasional for his valuable sharing of knowledge. Inshallah, Prof, we'll meet again in other in the future, inshallah, in other opportunities. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, our discussion has come to the end. Hopefully, it's beneficial to everyone. Until we meet again next week with another topic, stay tuned to Radio IKIM Inspirasi Inforia Islami. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.